A hearty good morning to all. From a Stepping Stone course book, turn page number 100. In our page number 100, we have a poem, 10 Tall Oak Trees. Before originating the poem, let us talk about the poet and the poem. The poem, 10 Tall Oak Trees, is written by Richard Edwards. Richard Edwards was an English poet, playwright, and composer. He was well known for his comedies. The poem talks about 10 tall oak trees standing in a line. One was cut down to build a warship at the behest of King Henry. The next one of the strong and straight oak tree was cut down to make charcoal for the furnace. The third tree fell to lightning. The next went towards firewood for the merchant. The remaining 6 oak trees were glad to be left alive till one of them was cut to make a barrel for the brewery. The next oak tree to go was the one that fell in the west wind. The next unfortunate oak tree was cut down by the builder to make floorboards. Of the remaining 3 oak trees, one was declared unsafe by the council and cut down. The last but one was cut in the name of progress to make way for the bypass. The last oak tree wanted to run and save itself, but the farmer brought him down, saying it was a nuisance. So, let's get into the poem. Welcome back to the poem 10 Tall Oak Trees by Richard Edwards. This poem has 11 stanzas consisting 4 lines each. In the first stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that there were 10 tall oak trees growing in a line. The king ordered one to be cut down to build warships. After that, there were 9 oak trees standing in a line. In the second stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that the 9 oak trees were strong and straight. One was cut down for the furnace, and then there were 8 trees left. In the third stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that 8 tall trees were standing tall and straight. Then lightning struck out and only 7 trees were left standing. In the fourth stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that a merchant cut one oak tree down for firewood, and so only 6 trees were left standing. In the fifth stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that 6 trees were left happy that they were alive. But one was cut down for making barrels for the brewery, and only 5 trees were left. In the sixth stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that the west wind broke one oak tree with a roar and only 4 trees were left standing. In the seventh stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that there were 4 oak trees left. Then a builder cut one to make floorboards for houses, and now only 3 trees were left. In the eighth stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that the 3 oak trees were sighing and feeling sad. A council said they are unsafe and so cut one tree. In the ninth stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that 2 oak trees were growing in the sun, but people cut one in order to make room and so cut one tree. In the 10th stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that only one oak tree remained, and even that was chopped down by a farmer who found it be a nuisance on his farm. In the 11th stanza of the poem, the poet tells us that there are no trees left. What is left is an empty skyline and cold, grey rain. Thank you.